Hello everyone, today we are going to be looking at completing the square. So this is basically making a quadratic expression which is generally ax squared plus bx plus c into an expression like that where you have at least a square and your p and q are constants. So basically you're asked the question, express this in this form. All right, we're going to do a number of examples. So our first example, all right, you want to express x squared plus 10x minus 3 in that form here. So basically this question is asking you to complete the square. I'm going to use the two methods here. So my method 1, right? My method 1 is simple. I'm simply going to say I need x squared plus 10x minus 3 to be equivalent to x plus p squared plus q. So I sort of like equate them like that. Now, the next thing I do is I expand that. So I'm going to expand this here. Now I know x plus p squared would be the same as x plus p, x plus p. So removing the bracket, these times that would be x squared plus xp plus xp, and then lastly the p and the p plus p squared. So this is x squared plus 2xp plus p squared. So this is what I get after expand. I substitute that on my right. So this is going to be x squared plus 2xp plus p squared. This is just for that. But remember, there is that q here, so plus q. The left-hand side stays the same. So in this method, I'm just going to expand and equate. Now, the next thing you do here is equate coefficients. Equate coefficients. You know what coefficients are. So this is just the term before an expression. So for example, here I start coefficient of x squared, then of x, and then coefficients of the constant terms. So the constant terms here. All right. So coefficients of x squared really don't give us anything because we have got 1 here, we've got 1 here. So 1 equal 1 doesn't give us anything. Coefficients of x, we have got plus 10 here equal coefficients of x. Now the term in x, there is 2p here. This gives a linear equation we can solve, p equal 5. So we found p. The constant terms, the left-hand side, we've got minus 3. The right-hand side, we've got two terms with no x, so the constant terms, p squared plus q. But we found p already, so minus 3 is equal to 5 squared plus q. This will give minus 3 equal 25 plus q. So our q will equal minus 3 minus 25, which is minus 28. Right. So with this method here, our main idea is to find what p is and what q is. After we're done with that, we can substitute back x. Our p was 5, so plus 5 squared. Our q is minus 28. Right. You may find that this method may be long, but I feel that for some expressions, this is easier because you're just expanding and equating coefficients. Right. Let's go to the second method. So I will put my method 2 here. So you still have your expression, which is x squared plus 10x minus 3. And the form you want is x plus p squared plus q. Now, with this method here, make sure that the coefficient of x squared should be 1, which is the case here. Then you're just going to concentrate with the terms in x squared and x. All right. So what you do is you need half. So you need half of the coefficient of x. Okay. So what is that? So that is going to be half of 10. So our half is 5. So you are going to simply add and subtract that half here squared. So I'm going to go x squared plus 10x. Right. I'm going to add my half here, which is my 5 squared, At the same time, I'm going to subtract it. Okay, so you add plus or minus the half squared minus 3. So you figure out the half which we have, you square it plus and then minus. Now you'll see that if you factorize this is just the square x plus 5 squared. Basically, someone can say, how are you coming up with that? So you are going to go there plus 25. You know how to factorize this into two brackets. So there is x. Our factor here is 5 and plus. So this is how basically I see. There is no need to factorize like that. You just know it's the x, the sign here, and then the 5 squared. This is minus 5 squared is 25 minus 3. So x plus 5 squared minus 28. All right. So there you go. That's the second method. All right. We are going to look at another example, but this time I'm just going to use this second method. The method for expanding is quite long. All right. So our second example here, express that in that form. Now, with our second method, you needed the coefficient of x squared to be 1, but this is 2, so you have to factorize it. So I factorize that. I have that. Now, if I factorize minus 2, I get minus 6. I only do that for the first term, and that's it. There is an x here missing. Right. Now, after factorizing the 2, because now I need the coefficient of x squared to be 1, half of the coefficient of x is, so half of minus 6, which is just the minus 3. So I'm going to add and subtract that. All right. So the 2 stays outside. I have x squared minus 6x. So remember what we said, you add the 3 squared, basically it's minus 3, but because of the square, we ignore that. And we subtract it. So we have completed the square inside the square bracket, right? So this is 2. Now, these 3, remember, we said x, the sign here, minus, and then the 3 here, the 3 squared. This is basically minus 9, and then plus 1. Taking the 2 inside, it will multiply the bracket, but it won't get inside like that. Then minus 18 plus 1, so this becomes 2x minus 3 squared minus 17. All right, so this is what you get. You need the coefficient of x squared to be 1, so you take out the 2. But I just take out the 2 on these 2 here. I leave the 1. I complete the square here. What do? I need half of this, which is 3. Take note, don't worry about the negative because you're squaring. So half of that is 3. I add it, I subtract. This 3 will give x minus 3 squared minus 9. Everything else is just the algebra there. All right. In our third example, so we have got that. We want to express, this is also telling you to complete the square. But remember, rewrite this so that you have got x squared, and you've got a term in x, and you've got the constant term. So I'm just going to rearrange. Now, I see that after rearranging, the coefficient of x squared needs to be 1, but it's minus 1. So I do factor out minus 1 here. All right. So if I factor out minus 1, it's going to affect the plus 4. It would be minus 4x now. So I only do that for the first 2, and there I go. So what I wanted, I achieved. I wanted the coefficient of x squared to be 1, which is there. So I concentrate with completing the square inside. Half of that is going to be 2. So that's the one I'm going to add and subtract. All right. So this is minus 1 x squared minus 4x. We said half of that is 2. So we're going to say plus 2 squared minus 2 squared. Okay. So I've completed the square inside here. The plus 3 is still outside. Right. So we said you take these 3, remember the x, the minus, the 2 squared. This gives minus 4 plus 3. Okay. Now, if you take in the minus 1 inside, it's going to be minus 1, then x minus 2 squared. The minus 1 and the minus 4 would give plus 4. There was a plus 3 here. So this gives minus 1, x minus 2 squared plus 7. Now take note, you can write the positive number first, and then you have got, and then 1 is just going to be nothing like that. Okay, so this is what we have. So you can see this is equivalent to this form here, x plus p squared, which we wanted. Our q is the 7, our P now here is minus 2. All right. So this is our third example. Our final example is that here. Express this in the form. You can see that this is a bit different. The 2 is outside the square bracket. Right. So I start with 2x squared, which is what I'm given, 8x plus 14. Now I need the coefficient of x squared to be 1, so I factorize the 2. But unlike the other examples, I can see that the 2 is factorized throughout. So I can factorize the 2 throughout, minus, if I factorize the 2, I have 4x here. Factorize the 2 here, I have 7. Throughout, I'm going to keep the 2 outside because that's the form that I want. So the 2 here, and whatever I'm going to do inside here, it will be like that, right? So half of this is 2, so that's what I'm going to add and subtract, minus 4x. So I'm going to add on the 2 squared and subtract the 2 squared, right? But remember this plus 7 here, plus 7. So this is going to be 2, everything else stays. Now these 3 here, these 3 expressions, remember x, the sign here, the 2 here, squared, this is 4 plus 7. So this is going to be 2 bracket x minus 2 squared plus 3. All right. Now take note here, this is the same form that you want. This is the form that you want, and there. So you can see that the A is 2, so that's our A. Your B is the 3 here, and that's it. All right, I hope this video helps you with completing the square and how to deal with where you have got a coefficient which is not 1. All right.